But look, it's a very, very big game. Spurs off the back of 3 consecutive defeats going into this game. I guess we can bring up the form. Take a look at the form of both teams going into this game, which probably isn't pretty reading for Tottenham at the moment. Obviously, Man City are Man City. Look at that home form as well. 4 wins and 1 draw in their last 5. Tottenham's away form, on the other hand, 3 wins, a draw. Okay, so our away form is also not bad. But look how many goals Man City are scoring at the moment, 17 in their last 5 games. Spurs obviously didn't look great defensively against Villa, albeit did look good going forward. And just said in his pre-match press conference that Tottenham are going to play the same way as they did against Villa. They're going to stick to their principles, which is what obviously Ange Postecoglou is pretty famous for. But with our good, look, Spurs actually have good form when it comes to playing Man City. Obviously, lost at the Etihad last year, but we're 2-0 up. The year before that, we did win 3-2. We've won 3 of our last 4 games against Man City. So we do seem to have their number for some reason when it comes to Premier League games. We seem to always put in a good performance. But looking at this game, I'll go to Ash first. Is it the right thing to do for Ange Postecoglou to stick to how we're going to play and play open, expansive football and try and take the game to City, or should he adopt a more maybe pragmatic approach with all the injuries that we have and considering, especially defenders are out injured?
I think basically he tried that against Wolves and it never worked. The end. In the stream. No, but real talk. Against Aston Villa, I was so proud of that performance. I know we didn't get the result, but that first 20 minutes to 30 minutes, I was blown off my seat. Like, it was such a spectacle and such an advert for football, for the Premier League. And I bet those players were just loving the way they were going out there, playing front foot, playing attacking. And I know some people might think, let's not get a hide in here and let's get some type of balance, not too gun-ho. Maybe at times we sit back and, absorb their pressure, whatever. But we've got no centre-backs. So if we got no centre-backs and we try to absorb what they have, we're going to get ripped. So we might as well just go for them. And I think as well, it's an opportunity for Ange to say, look, guys, we've got no pressure. I just want you to play your football and I want you to go at them. And that's what we've always done. We've always just had a go. This is a perfect time to do it as well, I think. Like, it's again, we haven't got our full strength team. So a lot of fans are saying, look, we don't have a full 11. So people they can't basically do a dump on us. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If
Brain
all be different,
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But Brains, do you agree with Ash? Do you feel like in this game, attack is probably the best form of defense in this kind of game?
It's the only strategy. It's like, we're City's kryptonite team. Like, we've always been City's kryptonite team for maybe the past 3 seasons. But the reason being is because we were a fantastic counter-attacking team, and when teams play a counter-attacking game against them, you can score goals. You literally can score goals all day long if you want. But now we're not a counter-attacking team. Now we're playing them at their own game, which is interesting because Chelsea showed that you can score goals. It's like, if we can adjust that thing this week. Now, obviously that 30 minutes of football was incredible, but I had the feeling that Bentancur had so much impact on that 30 minutes. It was incredible. The link play, almost, there's that video going around with like the 6 or 7 or 8 chances. He was almost involved in every one of them, like in that period. And you saw the drop off of the chance creation as soon as he was gone. It wasn't anywhere near it. We still had a couple, but then we had situations where he would be the link player and it wasn't him, and the thing didn't work as well. Like an extra touch, or things didn't. His speed of understanding of the game is his massive asset, and it's shown when we played them that time where we got the 3-2 win. He was involved in most of the moves in that game as well. It's like so whether is Bez back from his
Biss is back. Biss is back. Yeah.
So if Biz can do that, that's the thing. I think the key is that you have to get in Basuma's head and go, you got to go back to the first 3-4 games that you played this season. You got to run this game. You got to run this game. Like, you've got to be the person who drops the shoulder and turns. And what we're going to have to do at the back, which is going to be the hardest thing, and if we pull it off, it will be the great escape, is draw them into playing. And now that is where we are most vulnerable, because we really don't have the fast-moving feet and ball players of Romero and Van de Ven. So you're going to be relying on Davies. In the Villa game, you guys must have seen this. The time it would take Davies just to get the ball. I actually thought Emerson was pretty good at how quick he moved the ball. Do you know what I mean? I thought he was quite good. He got the ball in and made a decision at least. Davies takes the ball. It's like everyone's going like, play Gil, you know, like, and Gil's waiting on the touchline, yards ahead, and he takes his time to kind of slowly roll the ball in. So Gil's got to wait on his other foot to get the ball. Just put the ball in front of him and let's go. So that's the thing. It's like, I don't know if we have what it takes to create a counter-attack system. So then Ash is right. What you got to do then is, you know how we kind of me and Ash kind of hashed out how he was trying to use Udogie, but I think we've got to use Destiny now in a high press way. I think we got to use them up the field now to press the hell out of them. We got to close down the lanes and make traps, catch them, and capitalize. And that's how I think you get goals against them. But I mean, I'm just going to keep on plunging, and I'm going to keep on trying to see the positive side of things. I'm going to watch the game from the ice bath. I'm going to be trying to stay positive the whole way.
Si, do you think Spurs psychologically have any advantage in this fixture, or do you think that the fact that we have a decent record against City doesn't really matter when it comes to Sunday?
It's a bit of a mix, I think. I think the key last year is obviously having Harry Kane usually makes an influential difference in these fixtures in the past. Whether that's him scoring or providing the creativity. And exactly what Gav just said actually is just a minute ago, is that element of creativity is obviously missing, especially when the likes of Maddison aren't there and Bentancur, of course. It was absolutely brilliant to see him in motion again from that starting point. Things gliding forwards, he's going past players. It was like he had not missed the game, which was fantastic. And then obviously broke everyone's hearts, half an hour in or so. And I think that's going to be massively missed against a team like Man City. They are essentially firing on all cylinders pretty much. Usually, with a pinch of salt, I'm saying this, they tend to take their time in a season before they start going gung-ho. I mean, there's been obviously a couple of weird results for them, but overall, they have power across the whole pitch. And I feel like my major concern is our defensive line. You could argue it's not too dissimilar to previous seasons, but we do have in our minds now this mentality of the first however many games it's been of the season that we should be able to hold our ground on these kind of fixtures. But missing these very important players and players that have improved the team significantly, having them out, I am slightly concerned, just in the sense of how we know Man City can play, and their forward line is very much in good form. So I'm not too fussed about our attacking side of things, because as we said, we get those positions. Yes, the Villa game, we should have put some of those away. We have ourselves to blame just as much as officials and things like this. But it's just that defensive line, and Gav made a great point just a minute ago about that connection. The connection to the midfield, and particularly those wing areas, that's what was missing, I think, in that Villa game specifically. Something that you would not have had if Romero and Van de Ven were there. They are quick passes, they get the ball wide, and exactly what you guys have just said is gone back to that infuriating thing that we've watched over many seasons of sideways passing backwards, don't know what to do with it, or don't have the confidence to make that potential risky pass in an accurate fashion. So that's where I think the battle is going to be for both teams. I think it's not so much our attack will hopefully take some chances if they appear, but I'm quite significantly concerned about that matchup between the defense and the midfield right now, which I think is going to be a big issue.
Listen,
Yeah, go on.
listen, I don't know if you're going to go into this, but do you guys not view this game as a bit of a free hit? Like, so do you turn to youth?
I wouldn't turn to youth in such a big game, especially because we actually played well against Villa. So what are you talking about? Maybe a centre back? You go to youth.
As in bringing Dorrington, because he's a fast passer of the ball. He's got speed. He's the closest to Mickey van de Ven on his other foot that we have.
I get that, but is Haaland the right time to chuck him in? You know what I mean?
You know what I was actually going to suggest, and this might be the ice bath talking, but in the past, Dyer has actually had good performances against City. He's actually
and against Haaland as well. Haaland last season at Tottenham barely had a kick. If I remember, I think he was one of the few games last season where he didn't have a touch in the box or something. If I remember rightly.
You know what it is though, like, and Ash as a defender will attest to this. Haaland has he takes classical routes to goals, which I mean is like his start positions and the way he makes runs. They're quite classical. So as in defenders who are a little bit slow, they actually know where he's going to come from each time. You know what I mean? So if you're just watching it, if you had someone like Dyer and you go, look, you might have a bit of confidence from every time he's played him, he's done all right. Like, you've pocketed this guy before, you know how he moves, stick to it. And then the only problem is sometimes Haaland is a bit of a fall guy. You know, sometimes they don't go through him or they don't really use him. If they play with Haaland and Alvarez, you know, we're probably going to smoke.
I think they will. I think they will play with both. Although I remember, just on what you're saying, Brains, I remember watching Gary O'Neill on Monday Night Football, and he was talking about how he was able to get, because I know Wolves beat City 2-1, didn't they, earlier in the season, and he was explaining how he got a defender like Craig Dawson to deal with Haaland, and he was basically saying he basically only engaged him when he was kind of in the penalty area or like around the penalty area, and up until then he would just basically stay away from him essentially.
Yeah, Haaland doesn't like play in small places. Now, obviously, they've got loads of players around him that love it, but he doesn't like playing in small. So I would say if you had a Dyer and a Dorrington, like, I would say you could play that game, like, not with a high line at all. Let the pitch stretch. Let them come and have shots from 18 yards, which they won't do because they want to run the ball in every time. But if you have them sitting, so the closer they get, it creates a squeeze so that there's no spaces, then you kind of take Haaland a little bit out of the game. Do you know what I mean? The problem is so many areas to attack from. But then if you just have one very fast, capable player next to him, and I would just like to see, because the free hit element of it is, what if Dorrington comes in and he's incredible? Look, we lose the game 2-0. That's still amazing. If we don't get battered, either way, we could put Davies and Dyer in, Emerson and Davies in. We're going to lose the game. But if Dorrington comes in and he has a good performance, we've found another centre-back. It's a big win. It's such a big win.
From what I've heard, I don't know if Dorrington is fast. So you're playing essentially two centre-backs that don't have any pace. So you're relying on their defensive anticipation, football IQ, knowing where to be on the pitch. Remember, centre backs, they need partnerships, they need relationships on the field. Obviously, Dyer would have to do a lot of talking and Dyer is a good talker, let's give him that. So he'll have to be coaching Dorrington a lot, and this is his first senior game. Look, I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at the whole Dorrington thing. Do you know what I'm saying? And to be fair to Dyer, and I'm no Dyer fan, I'm putting it out there, because I think he just his lateral movement, the way he turns, and the lack of actual defending that he actually does. He's not very front-footed in his defending, which doesn't suit Spurs' style, because we like to defend quite high up. We like to engage. Like, one's like more of a dog, one's more like a cat. One goes for it, one doesn't. But like, Dyer is actually good on the ball because he used to be a midfielder. So you're right. In terms of playing out from the back, Dyer could actually ping balls from out the back, long balls over the top. Yeah. Probably find your Brian Hills or whoever's playing on that left, or even across the right-hand side. He could probably switch to play us in quick. And he had one time I did see him do well against Haaland, and he actually was front-footed. He actually did push up the pitch and he followed him. And I think
Remember the game where his whole job was to shut down.
yeah,
Silva?
Will Mason instructed him.
And
He came out afterwards and he was like, "Yeah, I was instructed to literally just follow Haaland wherever he goes and be super aggressive on him." And I just did that the whole game. It was either him or it was Bernardo Silva. I think it was him actually.
No, I think it was Bernardo Silva, because Bernardo Silva in the game was running the game and he got told by Conte to step up and give no space behind Bernardo Silva, and it worked. Haaland didn't move well off Bernardo Silva.
Yeah, but we had a back three though. Then that you could afford to kind of take a centre back out. Yeah, the one thing I'm very worried about Haaland in terms, obviously, apart from the obvious, is that even if Man City are kind of being stifled a bit in possession, like playing their possession football, which might happen, you never know how we adapt our game. But what Pep has also shown is that he's not scared to go direct to Haaland if need be and just bypass the press. I remember a couple of occasions. First of all, at the when our Man City played Arsenal last season, I remember his whole game plan was literally, I remember Arsenal had Rob Holding at the back and he just went direct to Haaland every time. He literally just said, Edison, you go direct to Haaland. Don't even bother with the whole tippy-tappy build-up. Just go direct to Haaland. And Haaland was able to bully Holding, and they were able to get so many chances out of that. And I remember the first game of this season as well, against Burnley, he did the same thing. I remember in the first half, it wasn't quite working. They weren't getting Haaland involved enough. So whenever Edison got the ball, he just went direct to Haaland and he just lobbed the ball to him. And he knew Haaland had the physical advantage over their centre-backs. Now, that's what I'm worried about if Ben Davies plays. Because if Davies plays, even if we were able to stifle them, like on the ground, that they're not able to get through balls to Haaland, they're not going to be scared to just get Haaland to stick on Davies and then just go direct to him and get chances that way. And I don't see how we stop that, because Davies physically is just no match for Haaland.
Yeah, you need to put Vicario in the back three.
Yeah.
I'm more worried about Porro now. He's got to face possibly Doku and Bernardo Silva, because Bernardo Silva is going to be in that little pocket, in that half space, right in that inside channel. He's going to be doing those underlapping runs. But then you've got Doku on the outside, and they're going to interchange. And Porro, like in possession, really good, really offensive. But then when he's got to fill back into the fullback position, like sometimes he's not as good as your doggy in getting back in that particular position. And he hasn't got that physical presence, if that makes sense. He hasn't got that height and that positional awareness, and he doesn't always like check what's around him at times, so we can get caught out of position. And I noticed that against Aston Villa, especially in that first half, a lot of their attacks were coming down his side, and that's where we were getting caught out a lot of the time. DRB on that side, on your doggy side, not so much, but on Porro's side, it was like every time like Watkins was in or whoever was playing on that side was in. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm just worried about that. Doku, I think he had like 98 touches for City against Liverpool, and that's really high for a winger. So his impact has just grown, his influence has grown in the game. And I thought that Grealish, obviously he's a top player, but I think Doku's going to be keeping him out from now on, the way he's performing at the moment. So
Emerson knows he can pocket Grealish. So last minute.
Doku's the best dribbler in the league, isn't he? He's unbelievable, Doku. The one thing as well, the concerning thing, as much as I thought in the first half, I thought Emerson and Davies did quite well, but I think you saw right at the end of the first half, and then especially in the second half, you could see they just weren't natural centre-backs, not because of their attributes, but because of how they communicated. Watkins, every time, was just getting in between them, and no one was shouting to each other saying, behind you, or, someone watching or everything. And every time, Watkins was able to squeeze in between them and cause trouble, and there was no one talking. That's what Dyer would bring. Maybe you would lose something with his attributes, like pace and stuff like that, but what you would get is that communication. He knows where to look, where the danger is. Where I feel like Emerson was maybe too focused on the ball, wasn't focused enough on the line and where the danger is, and Watkins took full advantage of that.
I think Tielemans had a big say in that as well, because Tielemans didn't play like how Diaby plays as a second striker. He kind of peeled off into midfield, and then he knew kind of when to push up front and then pull a little bit wide, get a bit closer to I forgot the guy's name that plays Bailey. He used to peel up towards Bailey, like in that half space, and then they didn't know, the centre backs, whether to step up or to keep that zonal like positioning. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's what causes problems in the area, and that's why I worry about someone like a Bernardo Silva or even Alvarez, because Alvarez can sometimes drop as a 10, and like he can just operate in that area where no one picks him up in between the defensive line and the midfielder line. And I don't even think Dyer could. I'm not even sure if that Dyer is the answer for that. If I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we have any good answers, do we? To be honest, like, there's no real good options.
And that's why I just said go for it, just attack.
Unless maybe, what about, you know, Højbjerg played quite well in centre back against Chelsea. Would he be under consideration for you to step in this one? Højbjerg at centre back. What do you reckon?
Let's that one.
Yeah, go on, Si.
Why'd you give me that question?
I don't, just why not? Mix up a bit.
You give me that one. At the end of the day, I mean, you know, it's kind of expected that certain kind of players, possibly like defensive midfielders at least, should have an orientation of how to play in that sort of central defence position. But I think Chelsea is a very different team to obviously Man City. Like the Chelsea of yesterday is pretty much out the window for hopefully a long, long time, if not forever. But yeah, this Man City team is a completely different kettle of fish. I think with Chelsea, you do, well, with the exception of if you have 11 players on the pitch, it's a lot more helpful. But the fact is that if you don't, you know, you still do have a bit of ease about it. With Man City, you don't have that time, and you don't have that ability knowing that this team is trying to gel or this team's not actually good enough in the league this year. These guys are already, you know, primed for success, you know, ultimately probably going to win everything again. So, you know, I don't really want to see that kind of rolling that question back in the sense of, you know, academy players like you guys just mentioned is quite interesting. I mean, for me it was when I was properly playing, not like you guys do now, but, you know, I kind of relished those opportunities to be like, actually, yeah, I do want to test myself right now against one of the best strikers in the world, because it's going to go one of two ways. And you know that at the end of the day, if you tried your best, you know, you have your head up high. It's not like you should be disappointed. I mean, I know they probably would be to an extent, but I think it would be an absolute crack. What I said against the Villa game, or just before the Villa game, when I saw the starting lineup, I was like, I'm so fed up with seeing the same players. Like, it's from the last few years. It's not something we can help because of the situation that we're in. But guys, like, could we please have something different? And I'm not a massive advocate of this. Like, oh, well, we don't want the, you know, academy players coming in and having a bad game and it destroys their career. Well, I think personally, and I've said this for a long time, I think their careers are more destroyed the fact they never bloody play games. So, you know, for me, and I've said it last year, I said it before, why on earth are we playing the same players that lose week in, week out, or don't play, or don't have the philosophy mindset to change? The adaptation of some of these players is so poor. With Andrew's system, you could talk about all the players that we've had in our roster for however many years. I just don't think they're capable of understanding how it works. And it takes the top players, you know, like Cutie, like Van der Ven, etc., to understand, like, yeah, I can adapt to this. We're top international players, etc. But some of the players that are there just don't have that philosophy inside them. So I'm like, well, the academy team are set up like the first team, so they should have some form of rendition in their minds of exactly what is expected of them. They know the pressure's there. Yes, Man City is a phenomenal game to throw them into, but I've seen it before in the past. I know it's a long time ago now, but I do remember the debuts of like the likes of Ledley King. I still feel he was massively defined in those periods of time because he was thrown in at the deep end. And I think that's what makes a lot of these players. So I don't think Højbjerg's an answer at all for this game. I don't think the answer is what we played with last week, but I wouldn't say Andrew's stubborn. I know that he wants these players to start feeling like they can understand. And I get that, but we've seen for the last 4 or 5 years, these particular players that are probably going to start on Sunday just don't have that ability. So for me personally, I'm in the camp of you guys to be like, just at least one of those positions, throw them in. And then I probably guarantee to you they'll have a very good game and it will make the existing players look like absolute crap, like they have been for the last few seasons anyway. So what have they got to lose? That's just how I've always felt strongly about bringing these players in. You know, they're top quality youngsters, and they have to come in at some point. And I'd rather come in a reality check, i.e. the top level possible, than being put in some rubbish garbage game for the last 10 minutes that we're 4-0 up. What on earth are you going to learn about in that instance, you know? So it is a tricky one, but I think it's a perfect opportunity for some of these players if
you
they would
bring
allow it.
bring players like that in against like one of the teams at the bottom, and they have a good game, the very next thing people say is, "Oh, it was only them. It was only that, you know, they couldn't do it." Bring them in against the top team. If they have a bad game, we all go, well, all of our defenders would have had a bad game against them anyway. Like, no one else who we could pick now is going to do any better. You know, like this Man City team is set up as the absolute antithesis of what we have now. This is like demons that are coming for this team here. Like, this is the worst time you could ever play us if you're them. Like, the best time for them. They're attacking 5 against any first team player that we could put other than Romero and VDV right now. Kills us. Absolutely kills us. Quality and what they're made of kills us. Their defensive 5, Gavardio, Ake, Akanji if he plays, Stones, Walker, like that absolutely murders our attack. Like, we'd have a chance if our best attack could play, but even if our best attack could play, that defense should still murder our attack. So it is a completely free hit. There is 0 to no chance of winning this game or getting any kind of draw or anything positive out of it. So at least what you do is you just tell them to go attack, come up with a full attacking strategy, and you put, you know, what is it, Lyons, Foster? Just put the 2 centre-backs from the under-23s, Lyons, Foster and Alfie Dorrington. Just put them in. Iron sharpens steel.
I've got a quote here from Ange from his press conference. He was asked, are you tempted to bring Eric Dyer back into the team to deal with Haaland in the air? And he said no. I thought he says I thought it was one aspect where we struggled last week, maybe around set pieces. To be fair, Villa are very good at them. Overall, I thought our defending was actually quite good. We were disappointed with the second goal more than the first goal, not just the back four, but defensively we were really passive in that 5 to 10 minute spell, which we paid the price for. That's more of a collective thing. They haven't grown. They're all the same height as last week. We tried to feed them something different. We tried to feed them some different stuff, but we'll go with that. So it doesn't seem to be tempted to. He's saying it seems as though he's basically saying he's going to go the same back four. He's hinting at it. But yeah, he just said he's not tempted to bring Eric Dyer in to deal with Haaland in the air offensively. Maybe we're just going to have to try and keep it out the air, basically.